Hello, Akillaah here with a Feng the Accursed 10-man normal walkthrough. This boss has 3 phases. Phase 1 starts 5 seconds after the boss starts, Phase 2 is at 66%, and Phase 3 starts at 33%. When the boss starts, 2 crystals spawn in the room. The crystals are to be picked up by the tanks as they grant an extra ability to each of the tanks. Nullification Barrier is one of the abilities, which is a channeled spell that creates a barrier on the floor which protects anyone standing in it from magic damage and debuffs for up to 6 seconds. The tank cannot move while he is casting this, as it is a channeled spell. This ability has a 1-minute cooldown. The other ability granted is Shroud of Reversal, which is a buff that the tanks can place on a raid member that allows the tank to mimic the first spell cast against that ally and cast it back on the boss. It has a 30-second cooldown. During Phase 1, the boss casts Lightning Fist and Epicenter. Lightning Fist may be cast at random times. There's no set 30-second cooldown or anything like that on the ability, and it sends a shockwave of energy in the direction of the person Feng is targeting, stunning them and dealing damage. This can be taken with Shroud of Reversal and used on the boss during Epicenter, which I will explain in a moment. During Epicenter, the boss creates an earthquake, dealing AoE damage to the raid. This ability occurs every 30 seconds. We found it best to have our ranged and healers stack up for this fight so that it's easier on the healers. Also, if the Epicenter goes off and the tank wasn't able to stun the boss, perhaps he never casted Lightning Fist, so the ability wasn't able to be taken with Shroud of Reversal. Maybe it was missed, who knows what happened. The other tank could use Nullification Barrier on the raid, so we would absorb the majority of the damage from Epicenter. The tanks must communicate with the raid if they are unable to stun Feng, or if the nullification is on cooldown at the time of Epicenter, so that the raid is able to blow their cooldowns in order to mitigate the damage. At 66%, the Phase 2 begins. Healers and range remain stacked during this phase as well, so pretty much the same raid setup. During Phase 2, the boss casts Wild Spark, which is a debuff placed on a random player, and after 5 seconds, the debuff will drop off and place fire on the ground where the player was standing, which causes damage to anyone standing in it. So the player with the Wild Spark must run out of the raid. It is best to assign one side of the room for the raid to drop stacks, so when the draw flame is cast, laid and DPS'd, and the tanks will not be in the way of the fire. The fire on the floor also creeps around a little bit, so the raid must watch that it is not approaching. Feng also casts draw flame every 30 seconds. That draws in all the fire on the floor to the boss. This buffs Feng and causes him to deal a large amount of damage to the raid. Tanks need to cast Nullification Barrier on the boss, not on the raid, on the boss, when Draw Flame is about to finish casting, as it will prevent Feng from applying the buff from Draw Flame, effectively negating the ability. This is possible every other Draw Flame cast, but should especially be done when the boss nears 33% health, as it will create a smoother transition to Phase 3 and avoid excessive raid damage. At 33%, Phase 3 begins. The raid should spread out at least 6 yards apart for this phase. During this phase, Feng will use Arcane Velocity, which is an AoE spell that deals damage to everyone in the raid. The damage is increased the further away players are from the boss. It is best to tank the boss in the middle of the room and have the raid make a circle around the boss. Everyone should run in and stack on boss during Arcane Velocity to minimize the damage and help healing. Once it is finished, like a few seconds before the cast is done, the raid should start moving out and go back to their spots at 6 yards apart again. The reason we're at 6 yards apart is because Feng also casts Arcane Resonance, which is a debuff placed on a random raid member that deals damage to the player and anyone within 6 yards of them. If a player has Arcane Resonance during Arcane Velocity, they are not to stack. They are to stay out until the debuff is gone, and they will require additional healing and to pop any damage reduction cooldowns if possible. That is pretty much the basics of the fight, folks. Hope you enjoyed the video. Like, subscribe, share, and keep watching. Thanks guys, and watch out for more vids coming soon. Bye!